there's adequate funding in the President's budget request for Forest Service to perform environmental studies, particularly NEPA?
Yes, I believe our request does provide the adequate resources as long as we focus on dealing with the applications for both minerals and energy production, and realize that we will have to de-emphasize some of the other parts of our minerals and geology program. The other key thing that I mentioned is that by having both the BLM and the Forest Service work together to do one environmental analysis to cover both of our decisions, this too will greatly help facilitate our efficiency.
Well, so essentially it sounds like specifically in terms of addressing NEPA, there's maybe not enough money there, but there's other monies. You said about de-emphasizing other programs. Where is that decision made? I mean, does it lie with the forest supervisor who may decide, well, we're going to do we're going to de-emphasize moving ahead with NEPA analysis to move ahead with energy leases, oil, natural gas, minerals, and in favor of supporting whatever you were alluding to, this other pot of money? I'm confident in your grasp of it, but where does that decision-making fall? And what are the guidelines?
Well, it'll start with once we receive our budget for the next year, we'll send out direction that when we send the money out to the regions that provides where we're going to focus and emphasize on. And then also there's some discretion at the local level. But there's parts of the program, there's just no discretion that we have to address, and so that'll always be the first priority. But some of the other parts, dealing with some of the environmental concerns, dealing with abandoned mine reclamation, those are some areas we have some flexibility to be able to shift resources. But it's a combination of the national direction plus the discretion that our local managers need to have.
Well, if the President's budget has come up short in terms of clearing these hurdles to energy production and mineral production, I guess I have concerns. We've run against, and I have a question later regarding some specific national forests where we've had forest supervisors who've just, seems like they've had their own agenda in shutting down energy production. And so I guess I just would go on record, I'm concerned about how much discretion. And I know that's a fine line. We want to empower our forest supervisors to do a good job. But if they are anti-energy, it seems like there'd be a potential here if the President has underfunded the environmental hurdles, clearing the environmental hurdles for energy production, that we may run into some problems locally. In my district, a lot of local operators in the Allegheny National Forest are regularly frustrated by the often lengthy permitting process and delays. Now, it's especially so in my area since the vast majority of the mineral rights in forests are privately owned. The Allegheny is somewhat unique. At 93% of the subsurface rights are privately held. Generally, the wells in the Allegheny are shallow, which means that these companies need to have a steady flow of permits as opposed to deep well drilling. Chief, what steps might we be able to take to help expedite permitting and the necessary reviews for energy production in national forests?
Well, specifically there on the Allegheny, our process now is to meet with the proponents and to quickly to negotiate for some reasonable mitigating measures and then to issue the notice to proceed. In other areas outside of the Allegheny, our use of categorical exclusions has proven to be very effective. And for instance, out in North Dakota, which is by far the most active area on the National Forest System right now, is being able to work closely with the BLM to issue those permits in a very timely fashion too. Those are the things that we're really focused on. The other thing I want to also mention is this need for us to look at to see if the analysis that was done 8, 9, sometimes 10 years ago, if it's still current, if there's any new information, and actually address those concerns before the leases expire. This is another area we want to focus some of our limited resources on to ensure that those leases can continue if they need to be extended or be available to be released.
Thank you for that. Any insight on how the pending forest planning rule is going to impact energy production on national forests?
I believe our preferred alternative for a new planning rule will help facilitate everything we do on the national forest by reducing the time that we spend in planning by at least, I believe, 50%, cut down the cost, And it also will allow the local communities to have much more of a engagement in that entire process. So I believe it will facilitate not only minerals and energy production, but also the need for us to restore our national forests.
And I just publicly thank you for, as a part of that planning role, establish that advisory committee, which gives that local voice. So that was a nice addition.